Bill Doolin became the most famous outlaw of Oklahoma Territory. He started with the Dalton Gang and escaped the Coffeyville shootout in 1892. Relentlessly pursued, he saw the gang dwindle. In 1896, a cabinet card by W.B. Doherty in Guthrie recorded his body riddled with heavy buckshot after the action of Deputy Marshal Heck Thomas. At 18, John Wesley Hardin notes in the album the end of the cattle drive along the Chisholm Trail to Abilene, Kansas, in 1871. The journey left traces. Reports say that along the way, he killed 4 Mexicans. In Abilene, at the American House Hotel, he shot the guest in the next room, perhaps for snoring. By the time he died in 1895, between 27 and 42 deaths were attributed to him. An albumin photo, taken in 1900, caught Pinkerton agents in the hunt for the Wild Bunch Gang. On the left is Charlie Siringo, former cowboy in Texas and New Mexico, who joined the agency in 1886 and in 1912 published A Cowboy Detective. On the back, he names the partner on the right, William B. Sayers, mentioned in the book as W.O. Sales. In a time of distrust of law and courts, the photo captures who remained. In front are deputies Heck Thomas from Guthrie and Morris Robacker from Pawhuska, also chief of Osage Police. Behind them are Osage Scouts Spotted Dog Eater and Howling Wolf. In the last row, Clerk John H. Havighorst from Pawnee and Assistant Attorney General Roy Hoffman. In 1895, a cabinet card shows Roy Bean, who called himself the Law west of the Pecos. Justice of the Peace in Langtry, Texas, he held hearings in the Jersey Lily Saloon, handing down fines and quick sentences, guided by state laws and his own interpretation. His routine exposes frontier justice at the end of the 19th century. How did he apply these rules? On November 9, 1867, the New York Times portrayed Kiowa Chief Setanta as astute, diplomatic, bold, and also cruel. 4 years later, after the attack on Henry Warren's wagon train at Salt Creek, Setanta, Bigtree, and Satink became the first indigenous people tried in the U.S. at the Jacksboro Court, and the story only grew more tense. In 1884, A. Frank Randall recorded at the San Carlos Reservation in Arizona Territory the first photos of Geronimo, Chiricahua healer and leader. Among them stands out the portrait in which he appears kneeling, with a Springfield 1873 carbine. The session, part of a series, shaped his public image and would still leave questions hanging. In March 1886, photographer C.S. Fly left Tombstone, Arizona, alongside General George Crook, heading toward the Mexican border. The mission, to negotiate the surrender of Geronimo and the Chiricahua. In the Canon de los Embudos, he captured the only images of the war. This one shows men, women, and children. In the background, riders stand watch. In April 1876, in New York, William R. Howell recorded his final portrait of George Armstrong Custer in cabinet card format. 2 months later, he would fall with part of the 7th Cavalry at Little Bighorn. Mindful of his own image, Custer posed more than 150 times. This session closed that pursuit. What story did that gaze already carry? Who is, after all, Frank Buckskin Leslie? Researcher McCubbin, rigorous with the origin of images, admits, the photo does not prove it is Buckskin Frank. The identification relies on another authenticated image. The man gained fame in 1882 when he killed Billy Claiborne at the Oriental Saloon in Tombstone, in what was then Arizona Territory. And that was only the beginning. At the debut of his historical collection, McCubbin presented a striking record. The Sheriff of Lincoln, Pat Garrett, the man who would kill Billy the Kid on July 14, 1881. The portrait, taken by James N. Furlow in Las Vegas around 1880, appeared after the capture of the gunman at Stinking Springs in New Mexico Territory on December 23, 1880. Amid the frenzy of the West, famed European and dancer Lola Montez landed in California in 1853 and became an attraction in the Gold Rush saloons. Her number, the tarantula dance, drew stares. She shook her dress as if expelling spiders, lifting her petticoats. The scene between theater and mockery brought her instant fame and much debate. At age 20, John Henry Holliday graduated from the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery. In 1872, O.B. Morat recorded a portrait in carte de visite format, one of the few adult photos of the man the world would know as Doc Holliday, famous for the gunfight at the OK Corral in Tombstone. The image remained in the family, kept by cousin Mattie for decades. An old cabinet photo, dated around 1880, bears the caption, "Horse Thieves of New Mexico." But there is more in this scene. Scholars point out that the standing man may be John Kinney, leader of a gang that dominated horse and cattle theft in the territory between the 1870s and 1880s. Who were they, and why did they dare so much? Have you heard of the Texas Rangers? This police force, active throughout the state and known nationwide, was born during the Republic of Texas before annexation to the U.S. In 1874, the Frontier Battalion was created with 6 companies. Company F, recorded around 1885, reveals how they operated patrolling borders and routes and their role in surveillance. James Butler Wild Bill Hickok emerges as the first great gunfighter of the West. Fame was born from the 1865 duel in Springfield, Missouri, against Dave Tutt, a clash that became the model for gunfights in cinema. That same year, he appears in a carte de visite by Charles Schulten, displaying 2 Colt navies in cross-draw, a foreshadowing of the legend. In 1887, John C.H. Grable recorded a photo and noted in the copyright the name of the cowboy portrayed, Fred Pierce, famous cowboy of Wyoming. Since then, research in the 1880 and 1890 censuses, newspapers of the time, and in the Wyoming Brand Book has not confirmed his existence. Who was this horseman, after all? A mystery that still intrigues researchers. In Holbrook, Arizona Territory, the Apache Sheriff Commodore Perry Owens went to serve the warrant against horse thief Andy Cooper. There was resistance, gunfire, and Cooper and brothers Samuel and John Blevins fell. Another Blevins was wounded. Months later, in 1888, Owens posed for Emma Albright in Albuquerque, New Mexico Territory. When we speak of the Old West, the name that arises is Wyatt Earp, largely because of Bat Masterson. Former Army scout and sheriff, Earp's partner, he told Theodore Roosevelt that only Wyatt would show the real West. Aide Stuart Lake listened, found Earp, and in 1931 published a romanticized biography. Several scenes were Masterson's own experiences. Frontier portrait, around 1850. The identity of the man remains unknown. In the rare daguerreotype, he appears of mixed roots, perhaps Métis, with work clothes, knife, and hatchet. These signs point to life in the frontier economy, in a zone of contact and conflict, where labor and self-defense blended in a daily life of risk. This 1850 daguerreotype shows James P. Beckworth, a figure of the fur trade who gained notoriety when the image appeared in his 1856 biography. Born in Virginia in 1778, son of an enslaved woman and an Irish overseer, he crossed the West from 1824 to 1866, opening routes and trading goods on the frontiers. A rarely recorded scene, a buffalo hunter. In the Old West, the slaughter was routine, but we almost never see the hunters themselves. This cabinet card, around 1880, shows a man with a Sharps rifle, equipment of the time, in a Payne and Stockdorf studio in Leadville, Colorado. A rare encounter with the one who pulled the trigger. On September 7, 1876, the James Younger gang's attempted robbery of the Northfield, Minnesota, bank ended in flight and capture. The episode generated a carte de visite made by Ira E. Sumner, standard for portraits of prisoners and the dead, which circulated by the thousands. Today, few copies remain, kept in public and private collections. Late 1870s. Samantha or Samantha Fallon ran the San Jose House Hotel and a millinery in Tombstone, Arizona territory. Her image was recorded by C.S. Fly around 1879. Pointed out as Ed Schiefelin's partner, she would change course. She married Zachary Taylor on December 14, 1880. But the story held twists. March 1886. In the negotiations between General George Crook and Geronimo, in the Canon de los Embudos, Sonora, photographer C.S. Fly recorded an Apache in a three-piece suit. Fly, or his wife, said it was the Apache Kid, a version reinforced by William Sparks. Historian Granville Stewart countered, "It is not the Kid."